It's time for TimeOut. Good day, everybody, and welcome for the relaunch of ZNS new shows. This one called the TimeOut, the initiative, the sports. We're going to tell you about things that happened back way in the 60s. We're going to also have some off-the-wall, off-the-cuff conversation, let you know some of the folks here in the sporting world that you've never met, and we're going to just give you everything about sports. And this one, yes, is our initial show. And joining us on this initial show from the Thomas A. Robinson Track and Field Stadium, the mecca of all stadiums in the Caribbean, where most, should I say, records and history has been set throughout the Commonwealth and this region. Stanley Mitchell, he's like me. He's seen sports through the eyes of the lens, and he's also put it on paper. Stanley, we are here at the original Thomas A. Robinson Track and Field Stadium. Give us some history. When was this built?
This was built and opened in 1966. Way back there, they put down a cinder track on it and had a big opening ceremony. It wasn't named the Thomas Robinson Stadium at that time, but later on in 1981, it was officially named the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium.
And you were here for that?
I was here for that. I can remember just like yesterday. Everybody was out here, and the stadium was lined all around, just, just incredible.
Just like you are making history being the first guest here on the TimeOut. Lots of history here at the track. Carifta Games, boxing, you name it, was held here.
That's right. Carifta came here in '76. And that was something fantastic. Up until that time, we hadn't had an international meet held here, just local stuff. And when Carifta came, Gus Cooper, who was president at the time, had gone to other ones and saw that it wasn't really up to his standard. You know, he's a valley boy, he's a fella who can promote. So he designed a flag, we call it, but it's a banner, he calls it, an opening ceremony, because he had been to some and they didn't know, they just started the meet. And from then on, the Bahamas became one of the top places where everybody wanted to come to Carifta Games. In fact, that one was so successful that we had it back in '78, 2 years later. And I would dare to say that Carifta is branded in the Bahamas than any other, even where it was originated in Barbados. Everybody in the Bahamas knows Carifta.
And speaking about branded, this original stadium is branded because if you can remember when I first got into this business, to the left of us was the Andrew Rogers Baseball Stadium. That is gone. Couple blocks up, it was the Churchill Knowles Softball Stadium. That was gone. Across the street was the Netball Stadium. That is gone. But this stadium is still here.
That's incredible. In fact, they built a new one, and this is still here. And thank God it's here, because you might know that when you have big meets like World Relays and Worlds, your warm-up track has to be a certain distance from the track that you're going to have the meet. And this fits in perfectly with our big new refurbishing stadium across the street.
And looking at the stadium now, could you imagine us hosting events and people not wanting to be in here now? How we used to host events in a small stadium like this with the wooden bleachers, and now across the street we have that big edifice?
You realize that there used to be tents for athletes and groups all around the stadium. Every seat was taken here. My first Carifta in '76, I was right up there watching. 78 back. It was, let's go. Carifta's here. Everybody's got to go. Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. Now we have two.
I mean, speaking about this stadium, it has hosted some of the major events in the world, the Ali fight. You were here for that. You were here for just about everything.
Everything, yeah. I've been here for everything. I've been trying since we were talking to figure out where it was held, because they had a special floor. No, that was for basketball. This one with the ring, they had to. I won't go there. I have to call. Can't call my brother. He's gone. He was involved with the Ali fight. They had to do all kinds of things with the money from the gate, make sure the police were here to run them over to the bank and come back. It was another big event at this stadium. The other one I can think about was a Haitian soccer tournament.
Yeah.
I came here and
the road was not out there like that.
No, it wasn't like that. And I could tell you, there were about 1,000 Bahamians, if that much, 500, and on either side was like 6,000 Haitians watching this game. They had to turn people away.
Yeah.
Couldn't hold the crowd. But this has been through a lot. I remember we had a track meet here. I think it's Junior Pan Am, Junior CAC. And the grass wasn't growing that well for that meet. And Doyle Burrows came up with a genius idea. He painted the green in the inner of the stadium, and if you were over there, you couldn't tell. It wasn't grass.
Soccer matches are also being held here. We've had some of the best athletes in the world. I remember coming here to watch when Carl Lewis was in his heyday. He ran right here on this track.
He brought the Santa Monica Track Club here. A couple of his guys, his relay boys, and they put on a show right here. I wonder why we even built that one over there. Because this could really do it.
It's gotten some refurbishments, but it's still looking a bit the same. The new VIP stand, the wooden bleachers are still intact.
That's classic.
Classic. I don't think they want to move it because if you take away, it'll take it like if you want a family island, you say we don't want to build this because we want the island atmosphere. I think these wooden bleachers should stay here to make it look like the original stadium.
And let the young people know this is how it used to be.
Yeah, the long jump pin is right here. It's been gotten some resurfacing over the years because of the relays and the Carifta, and with World Relays coming up in 2024, it'll also get another facelift. But this has stand the test of times. Hurricanes, everything. You know, you come out here after a hurricane. This place is still intact. When other buildings and other places are being destroyed, the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium, which was not his name at the beginning, it was just the Queen Elizabeth Sports Complex.
Yeah.
This is still standing, so that is a testament of this right here.
Yep.
And this used to be close to the hangar too.
Yep. You old enough to remember the hangar?
I did my history.
Okay.
But we're going to take a first break here from the stadium, and when we come back, Stanley and I will talk about the stadium, the man whose name is in.
Dwayne is on the TV, so turn the TV on.
Join us for the most electrifying late-night show in town. The brightest and most talented Bahamians will keep you glued to your TV screens.
You better talk to your executive director. You see Rico over there giving you the evil eye right now.
Well, I say Shepherd Morn. Good to be here with you, my boy. Good to see you, man. I'm excited for you.
Pour yourself a glass of bubbly because the fun has just begun.
We are back here on the Timeout. My special guest on this first show, Stanley Mitchell, and we are here in the original Thomas A. Robinson Track and Field Stadium. This complex was once known as the Queen Elizabeth Sports Center. But let's talk about the man the stadium is named after, a very high-profile man. Most of us growing up track and field athletes wanted to be like him, Thomas Augustus Robinson. Stanley, you've been around for quite some time. Before his death, I was able to interact, and every time I saw him, he was like a giant of a figure. It was like I was 2 feet, and he was 8 feet every time I saw him. That's the stature he had in his life.
Yeah, and he was like that, but he was a gentle giant. He would talk to the lowest and the highest the same way. There was nothing about him that was, no guile in him. I knew Tommy all my life. I went to St. Matthew's Church as a little boy. Tommy was a hero from then, and he won his first medal in 1957. at the West Indian Federation Games in Jamaica. He got a bronze in the 1 and the 2, and helped the relay to win a bronze medal. And he just went from there. His greatest feat was winning 2 medals at the Commonwealth Games in 1958 in Australia. And no, not in Australia, in England. I'm getting old, Fisher. And when he came home, he had a hero's ride around the island. These people think today when these athletes come home like that's something new. Every entertainer, he was in a convertible car, so everybody could see him.
He traveled during a time when persons of, should say that, of our color were oppressed, and he went to those countries and he stood up like Jesse Owen.
He did, and not only that, a couple of times he went as his own coach and own manager, just the one-man band, as Prince Philip called him, when he saw this one man coming with the flag. He said, but who is this gentleman from the Bahamas? The flag, carrying the flag, he's his own manager and his own coach. But he showed them. In fact, they said he won so many medals in Jamaica that they stopped naming the children Thomas or Tommy down there after a while.
And we are still surprised that this is the original Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. In the back of us is the new Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. They didn't change the name, so he probably the only person in this country that has 2 buildings named in his name.
Some people suggest that we should name this one after one of our other accomplished athletes, but it would seem strange.
It's 1975 was when you won the world title for the Bahamas. You were on top of the world then. Do you feel angry and bad at anybody, the fact that they haven't really honored you in any way?
Well, they didn't honor me in any way. You know, I promise, you know, it's something what I should say, but I promise people that the thing what has happened to me, I won't complain, I won't talk about it anymore.
And Stanley, as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of independence and great moments in sports history, we cannot leave out the one called Elijah Obed, whose feat I don't think no Bahamian may ever reach. We've had some boxers that try to come to that level, but they've all fallen short.
In my opinion, he is the overall best of everything. He's a world champion, and when you carry that, you carry the best in the world. I saw him fight so many times in Miami Beach. I worked at the airline at the time, and a friend of mine, Randall Barry, and I would go over and watch every fight that Obed had. We had a habit of betting, the Mexicans and all them funny Peru and who had athletes who was fighting, take them in the bathroom, bet them, and we didn't know that we could pick up the money.
Spending money.
I saw Obed miss a fella and he almost fall down. I mean, the power from the punch just went whoosh.
You have traveled so much places. Were you there for the fight there in Paris?
No.
Didn't get to go. You were like many Bahamians that listened on the radio that morning. And what was going through your mind listening?
We wanted him to get this. This was the prize. This was going to make it us on the world, and he did it. And we didn't treat him right.
No, that's the point I was getting into, because most persons, including Wellington Miller, the former president of the Bahamas Committee, and a lot of persons be on the side, we have not done anything for Obed, not even name a road, a building, nothing, and that should not
But you could edit this. He can't sit on the side and say anything. He's a member of the Bahamas Olympic Association and committee and president of boxing. He should have been leading the charge and saying nothing until Obed is recognized. I want Obed on one of the roundabouts, the whole man up there, so when I'm driving my grandchildren to school, they say, Papa, who's that man? I could explain to them how great Obed, Elijah, Everett, Ferguson was. The man was on top of the world, and I don't care what he did after that, he should be honored.
The great Elijah Obed, one of the Bahamian standing heroes, like Stanley says, one of the greatest Bahamian athletes of all time. Once again, we're here at the Thomas A. Robertson Track and Field Stadium. I'm telling you, Stanley is involved in so much. When we come back, a lot happened in baseball. Don't forget, they had years without baseball being played in the Bahamas. I want to hear his opinion. I know it's going to be a hard-hitting one.
You're not going to do very well in this court if you keep cutting me off.
I've already paid him $500, and I noticed we haven't spoken about the $500 that I paid him. I did not receive any of my money.
I didn't know her like that.
I ask a question and then you answer.
But I spent
and
that on my car.
Mr. Roll, that is the order.
Son.
I joined an ASU that was led by Mr. Wilkinson. At the end of it, I would have received $5,000. However, I did not receive any of my money.
You would understand the importance of a wedding day for a bride.
Well, I've never been a bride.
The decision is legally binding.
All right.
Welcome back here on the TimeOut with my special guest on this first show, Stanley Mitchell. Most persons know him from track and field, but he also has an involvement in baseball. His father was elected president of the Bahamas Baseball Association back in 1954. 1954. So, and you've been around, you've also been an executive of the Bahamas Baseball Association. So many great players have passed through. Tony Curry, Renty Ford, just to name a few.
Adam Brister, and Will Coleman. They're my top five. The younger ones are coming up and they're tremendous too. Yeah, right. But we were the same with Andre. Just out there with Jazz now, Andre had some fans that were just as rabid about him. He made it. You know what it was to make it in 1957? And they say he didn't play baseball, but he played softball at Garfunkel Field. And he had an idea of what the game was all about, not what was being played in the major leagues. But Andre Rogers, baseball. Tony Curry, 3 years later in 60. I mean, and it just went on. Ambry and Renty in 73. We didn't have TV.
The radio.
You should know that a good announcer can paint a game of what's happening as if you're watching it. And when they say there's a
line drive to center field,
that one's going, and you can picture it. And then when he say, well, there goes Willie Mays after it, he turns with a basket catch. Andre goes deep in the hole. I mean, deep, deep, deep. And that arm, woo, like a rifle to first base. And we lived it, loved it, and the more. We had men in the minor leagues also, you know, coming up at the time. And then the big, what I call, earthquake happened between leaders of baseball.
Yeah, that was very a dark moment. Every year a minister tried to come in and said it is settled, and then you still don't have what caused it and what led to the rest.
Nobody wants to speak about what caused it. I was very close with Jim Woods, the former president, and I've heard his side. The other people I've been with Greg Burrows, also working with him. I used to go by his gas station on Wolf Road and Montrose Avenue every evening I left work.
Just to find out.
To talk to him, to talk reason. He says, we're going in a different direction. I said, but if you go that way, we're gonna lose.
We did lose a lot.
A lot, but two things
because
happened.
We're still not having a senior league.
But it was right and wrong. He built a lot of players, but there was nowhere for them to go with Bahamas on their chest. And that is one of the biggest things that could happen to a young Bahamian athlete, to represent your country. So it went back and forth, ministered this, Jim getting put out of the stadium over there. Sometimes he came and met one time with a tractor on the mound, and he had an international team coming from Taiwan to play the Bahamas. I don't know, but I was also, I'm happy to say, involved in mending it. I talked and talked. I got Salty Camp with Jim, with a group of us, and Shane, Albury, and T. Rogers, and we spoke, we talked, we explained what was happening. I even told Minister Wisdom got upset with me one time when he told me he was making them the Bahamas Baseball Federation. I said, you talking foolishness. I said they could only go until the plane takes off.
At the end of the day, all the international federations still recognize.
They got to get a sanction letter from the Bahamas Baseball Association that represents the Bahamas in baseball. So finally, sense started to come around, and after a while, when we met, one by one, they came over until Teddy Sweeten came over. And we were able to say under Minister Danny Johnson that it was healed, and we have a picture of them saying baseball is back. But baseball, that's not the only thing that will bring baseball back. They brought the people back together that run baseball. I was adjunct vice president just to keep it together for 2 years, and we planned that after that we'd have a real election, and whoever won would be the people to take it forward. But I don't know what they're gonna do with the stadium, who's gonna play in the stadium, when they're gonna play in the stadium. Many questions without answers, but they will be shortly. But we have to have baseball. And people got to realize this basketball shooting three-pointers is exciting, but baseball in America is a pastime. You go families to baseball, you sit for hours and watch, and if you know the nuances of the game, you understand what they're trying to do. And then it becomes a happy time. And that's why they have the 7-inning stretch. And they play that organ and everybody.
You're giving us a complete 9 innings of baseball here.
Sorry about that, I get carried away.
There's so many topics we want to get.
My father was the first president, not because he was crazy about baseball, being a Turks Island and coming here from cricket. But he had 2 brothers in New York, and anytime there was a World Series within that area, either the Giants or Yankees or the Dodgers, he would be up there to every World Series.
Well, we wanted to talk about a lot of sporting legends here on our first show. I guess we'll have to talk about that in our second show. And guess what? Stanley will also be our guest then. So thanks for watching, everybody, on this first time out. I hope you learned a lot from the encyclopedia, the dictionary, the man who knows it all, who's seeing sports from as early as the 50s. Thanks for watching, everybody, and stay tuned to the Time Out.